My new life began in a single room of an old apartment, coinciding with my entrance to university and marking the first time I'd lived on my own. Situated on the outskirts of a quiet town, the apartment represented a symbol of new freedom and independence for me. However, one weekend, while my parents were away on a family visit, I found myself alone and unexpectedly confronted with a night of unforeseen terror. As the night quietly deepened, I was at my desk studying when I began to hear strange sounds from the next room. Initially, I thought it might be just the wind or the creaking of the old building, but the sounds soon took on a clear rhythm, repeating with an eerie regularity. Drawn by this odd noise, I resolved to investigate its source. Upon entering the adjacent room, I was met with a chill in the air of what was usually just a storage space, expected to be empty. However, as my gaze fell towards the windowsill, I discovered indentations on the wall as if something had been striking it from the inside. In that moment, a door quietly closed behind me, prompting me to turn around. There, on the floor, lay an old photograph, dropped seemingly out of nowhere. It was of a girl who had reportedly lived in this apartment before vanishing decades ago. The girl in the photo seemed to be staring back at me, as if pleading for something. Suddenly, the tapping sounds resumed, and this time, they were accompanied by a girl's voice calling for help. The voice seemed to come from both afar and near at the same time, sending shivers down my spine. Filled with fear and confusion, I was unsure of what was happening or what I should do. All I knew was that I dreaded hearing that voice again. As the long, quiet night finally gave way to dawn, I mustered the courage to check the room once more. However, I found nothing out of the ordinary. Since then, whenever I am alone, I often feel haunted by the whispers of a forgotten voice, a constant reminder that invisible terrors always lurk close by. In our daily lives, we must accept the reality that the events of the past and the fears experienced by people do not simply fade away over time. Instead, they persist in this world in some form. The cries of unseen entities suggest the existence of another world hidden behind the safety of our everyday lives. Since that night, despite returning to my studies and daily routines, the event has continued to whirl in the depths of my mind. As time passed, I became convinced that my experience was not merely a hallucination or a figment of my imagination. Something had been there in that room, trying to communicate with me. Torn between curiosity and fear, I set out to unravel this mystery. I began researching the apartment's past, digging through local library archives and online resources. During this process, I learned about an unresolved disappearance case that occurred decades ago in this apartment. The missing girl turned out to be the same one from the photograph. While the incident had once shocked the local community, it had faded into obscurity over time, becoming a forgotten piece of the past. To me, however, the case was not just a matter of the past but a continuing reality. The voice I heard that night could have been the missing girl's. The thought that she might have been reaching out to me for help was heart-wrenching. Further investigation led me to gather information suggesting that the girl was last seen near this apartment and that she had appeared frightened. These details eerily matched my own experience that night. Despite my findings, when I attempted to contact the police, I was told that too much time had passed for a new investigation to be launched. Undeterred, I reached out to the girl's family to share my experience. They had lived with unanswered questions for so long but were grateful to feel her presence through my story. This experience has become unforgettable for me, teaching me that we possess the ability to sense the unseen and that the events of the past continue to live within us. The voice of the missing girl imparted a crucial lesson even forgotten beings, when someone listens to their cries, can bridge the past and the present, shedding light on unresolved mysteries. Her voice reaching me was no coincidence. Perhaps it was meant to serve a purpose.